You can't survive and thrive at the same time. Let's talk about it. What's up, y'all? My name is Ellie. I'm a mindset coach. I talk candidly about my journey, as well as share tips to encourage growth and healing and uplift anyone who may struggle with feeling seen. So, let's talk a little bit about some of the differences between surviving and thriving and why they are mutually exclusive. So, surviving is getting by from day to day, just getting by, not necessarily pushing forward in a way that has long term implications or long term vision, but just here and now to get to then and there, and then repeating that, maintaining, if you will. Whereas thriving is really living your life in a way that has that long term reach, that long term vision, that long term mentality, and experiencing fulfillment with yourself and your life throughout that journey. It's flourishing, if you will. And again, they're mutually exclusive because you just simply can't do both at the same time because of how you have to, because of the perspectives you have to take, the mindsets you have to take, how you have to view life, and then make decisions and actually action upon your life. They will conflict. And there are moments, don't get me wrong, where survival is what is absolutely called for. Sometimes you just gotta get through it. You just gotta get from moment to moment. I'm not speaking against it. It's gonna happen. We all have those moments. What I am saying though is that we can't live in survival mode and then expect to have this rich and fulfilling and great life that we all otherwise might want. Just that's not going to happen through living and operating in survival mode. So at some point, you got to come up out of that, right? And survival mode can leave you feeling drained. It can leave you feeling unhappy. It can leave you seeing yourself through a negative lens potentially, because you still do have to deal with the emotions and the effects of not necessarily being able to reach your goals and have yourself actually working toward those long-term visions with what feels like traction and consistency. So it can be de-energizing. Whereas thriving, you're seeing yourself really go for it, and that in and of itself can energize you to continue to go forward and live in that happiness, live in that, not excess, but there's a word I'm looking for. What's that word? I can't think of it right now. But you get the point. And it's important to really be able to learn how to balance the two, because, again, we will have moments when we just have to survive. It just happens. But being able to also make decisions that not only benefit today, but also can set up next week, next year, the next decade of your life, that is how you get to a place where you're really thriving and flourishing and just living in this fulfillment and really seeing your dreams and your goals come to fruition. So let me talk a little bit about what this was like for me, because this has been a bit of struggle at points. So for years of my life, I found myself caught in survival mode, getting by day to day, putting out today's fire just so I can have enough to put out tomorrow's fire, and do it and do it and do it. And I was exhausted. I found myself exhausted. There's just years of chronic stress through putting out fires, many of which were self started, don't get me wrong, but partly self started because with survival, you have to pick here and now. So at points, I'd find myself having to pick here and now, knowing that putting out today's fire would set off a fire for tomorrow. And that's all. That was the only option, or at least that was the only option I could see at points. It's not always the only option, and it, in retrospect, wasn't the only option. But at points, that's all I could see, and that put me in a cycle of making short-sighted decisions, particularly on my finances. At points in my life where I would have to do something to get through today, and knowing that maybe spending on this credit today was going to screw me over tomorrow, or maybe taking this loan out today was going to screw me over tomorrow, but I had to get through today. And in the grand scheme of things, I had plenty of things to to work out in the grand scheme of things. And I paid dearly for some of those mistakes. I'm not even going to call them all mistakes. Some of those decisions that may have been short-sighted and in the moment were just all I could see or could do, and I forgive myself for it. So it's not something I hold on to. I'm like, oh my gosh, but it's part of the journey, and it was a part of the journey where I really struggled through and had to figure out ways to navigate and adjust away from in order to really start to thrive and see myself in the light that I wanted and knew I could be in. So with that, let me share a few tips that helped me and I hope will help you on your journey. First, it's important to practice full acceptance for yourself, your circumstance, the situation, just what all that looks like. You can't address something if you don't acknowledge and accept that it is an issue and needs to be addressed. So, looking at the picture and just being like, okay, well, here I am. Now, let me figure out what to do with this is a very important place to start because that can actually open up the door to do the work in a way that's healthy and constructive and doesn't put yourself down. And then it's important to get clear on what moving forward even looks like. Sure, I'm here now, but where am I going from here? What is forward? What does it look like? What do I want it to look like? What do I want to feel? What do I want to experience? What do I want to build? All of these questions or thoughts, it's important to consider them and have some kind of an idea that you can really boil down into actionable goals and steps so you can actually move forward. And then it's also important to identify what limiting beliefs or negative self-talk or just negative self-view image view challenges, negative self-image challenges may otherwise be getting in the way of you actually moving forward. You got to feel all of this. You got to feel your feelings and accept it all and just let it kind of swirl around in there, but also jump in the pool and be willing to swim through your emotions and pick them apart. But you got to feel them and got to dive into them. And then it's important to find outlets of joy and self care within all of that because it can be easy to get lost in those emotions when you really start to feel them. And it's just like, oh my gosh, the world is ending. All of these repressed emotions are overtaking me and overwhelming me. And it's easy to get lost and stuck in that. So, practicing self care and still finding outlets of joy will allow you to pull yourself out of the depths of that while still honoring that these are things I feel. This is part of my story, part of my journey, part of my reality. But give you enough, keep enough in your tank so you can keep going and figure out how to keep going a little bit faster or build more momentum. I guess let me put it that way. So I hope these tips do help you on your journey. It is always it's a lifelong journey. This work will be done forever. So this isn't meant to say that just doing a few quick things will change anything overnight, but really solidifying these ways of looking at yourself, ways of looking at your life, and ways of kind of navigating your challenges over time. It all adds up and it all builds up into this beautiful mosaic that could be exactly what you want to see and more. So, with all that said, let me, as always, leave you with a reflective question for today. And today words, y'all. I have been struggling with words all day, and I'm not gonna re-record this, so y'all gonna get this. But anywho, today's reflective question is: what is your definition of a fulfilling life, and what change can you make today to help yourself achieve that? Think about it.